What if one of the most famous spider people we know happened to hate spiders in the first place? And this little quirk resulted in the trigger of a little action that would take him away from his own mythology. But before getting there, we start with the Prowler involved in one of his shady businesses. He's meeting the Russian mafia and he's not happy about it. In charge of the men, there's a guy with a familiar name, Emil Blonsky. He has a special assignment for Mr. Davis. He doesn't even bother calling him Prowler, and that's like an ice dagger for his heart. Blonsky wants him to rob some sort of mini nuclear device from a Dr. Banner before he meets Tony Stark and further develops a revolutionary technology. Even though he's considering leaving crime behind to set an example for his nephew Miles, the Prowler has been cornered. A photo of his family has neutralized him. The only choice you have in the matter is whether they live or die. We jump to Miles Morales, but he's a bit different. He's not a Spider-Man. His brown eyes are closed for a minute as he recalls the traumatic events of his life that have led him to that psychologist's couch in the Avengers Mansion. This uncle, this role model, this criminal known as the Prowler. How can they all be the same person? How to manage the anger that causes him? The anger dates back to the very beginning of this young man's alternate origin story. Maybe his uncle was good enough to steal from Banner and Stark, but he was also stupid enough to leave an unstable nuclear gamma whatever in an unprotected briefcase over the table. A briefcase with a fateful spider lurking on its handle. So naturally, my first instinct was to kill it. Worst decision I ever made. A falling briefcase, a concentrated capsule of gamma radiation, and a powerful flash of green light blinded Miles and left him unconscious. After that, foggy memories of arguments, his father and uncle becoming estranged, and a sleepless night full of body changes. Black Kid now turned green in the middle of the night, but he kind of learned to control it, to hide it away from everyone but his best friend Ganke. Of course, this control was just an illusion in the presence of anger. Now Miles became fearful of anger because seeing green was a terrifying experience, one which brought something that transformed him, something that killed a man. I have harmed someone. I killed him. His uncle wasn't expecting company a couple of days later when he would finally get rid of the dangerous device, but overhearing him in a phone call was enough for Miles to follow him and discover his identity as the Prowler, one of the most wanted criminals in New York. Something that broke my heart before it eventually shattered. The Prowler, sneaky, treacherous, and not willing to let that Blonsky get away with so much info about his family, about his nephew, shot Blonsky in the back. And because time has momentum and some things just want to happen, the Miles accident repeated itself, creating an abomination. This monstrous equivalent to the Hulk we all know and love was swift in executing revenge. He lifted the Prowler like an inflatable doll and popped his head into oblivion. Years have passed, but the memories still revive all that anger and bring out all the green. It's been years, Doc, and I still can't understand why he chose the life he did. It's all his fault. Prowlers, living with this much anger, carrying this much pain through life, and knowing what he did? How will he manage that? Just thinking about it and crying about it painted Miles in a shadow of green. But the Shrink is here to help, to make him understand he needs to accept those feelings in the purest form of their origin, not as symptoms of anger, but a manifestation of affection. For this version of Miles, and perhaps for every version of Miles, there's only one true path toward being a hero. Sometimes it takes forgiving the monsters that are lurking inside. The story ends with a moving panel showing the Hulk on his knees, crying and hugging his psychologist. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to see more.